Hi, I'm Mrs. Blevins, and Mr. Misek and I teach Ceramics 1 together. So you're going to be learning the candle holder from me. He taught you how to do the textured sphere. So you should have watched my other videos on how to make your your candle holder drawings. And those are down here at the bottom. So you made your candle holder drawings, the thumbnails, and then you made your final candle holder drawing using your pattern. Okay, so now you're on to pass the pattern. So I'm just going to put that drawing off to the side because we need to start making the structure of this first. So this pattern is super helpful because it will give you the size of your base. And so when you're looking at that, it's going to be the size of this diameter here. You need to find something, and I kind of talked about this before, that's going to be around the same size. So on the video, I believe I used this dry sponge as my base. Okay, that's going to be sort of like a cookie cutter, a stencil, whatever you want to call it, to help me cut out my base. Okay, so I'm just going to put this off to the side for now. Couple of things you might need. Your rib tool. This is an official rib, but a lot of us made ribs. If you haven't made a rib, this is a really helpful tool. You can make it out of the top of a yogurt container. You're probably going to need slip. I put mine into a small little spice container. Just put a little bit of that kind of clay in the bottom of it, and it has to have a lid. You're probably going to want a brush. Some of you made a brush, but I just happen to have an old kind of watercolor brush, so that's there. You're probably going to need a needle tool, and needle tools can be made out of just a bent paper clip. That's fine too. And then rolling pins. So I have an official kind of clay rolling pin. What we recommend is that you use a rolling pin, but if your family is going to use it for food, I probably wouldn't use it with clay. Okay, so what other things can you use as a rolling pin? You can use a can of pop or water or a can of energy drink or whatever, because you can always wash this off when you're done. Just make sure that it's not open. Okay, or you could use something like this. This is like a tube that came from an oatmeal container. Oatmeal was inside of this, and this is going to be helpful for your mug projects. So if you don't have oatmeal or you haven't eaten oatmeal, first off, it's good for you. And second of all, you may need this for your mug project. Okay, not that it's required, it's just optional, and it's a good thing to have. So this is another thing that you could use as a rolling pin. Okay. So what are we going to do first? Well, first, I'm back to my piece of cardboard wrapped in plastic. We talked about this on like the third day about kind of keeping your clay moist and nice. So this is basically the same 2-pound ball of clay that I had when I did that demo. All right. So the first thing that you want to do is you're going to take a little bit off of this because you're not going to be using the whole 2 pounds just to make your base. All right. So this I would probably put back into a bag, and it just so happens that off to the side here I have my container that I'm storing my stuff in. So I like these containers because you can just kind of drop stuff in it and then put the lid back on, and you don't have to worry too much. Now I'm going to be looking for a piece of clay that is about this big. Okay. This is the diameter of my project. So if you put this on top of here, basically I could use this as a pattern. It's going to be a round circle on the bottom. So how would you do this? Well, the easiest way to roll out or make a slab is just to throw it down on your desk. And sometimes I like standing up. Sometimes you can throw it at an angle and get it to kind of continue to flatten out. Now, we don't want this super thick. Notice I'm using a canvas here. I could be throwing this on top of my small piece of cardboard as well, or Mr. Misek has shown how to work inside of the top of a cardboard box. Okay, so now my slab is pretty good. I really wouldn't have to do a ton of rolling on this. And in fact, I'll show you both ways. I'm just going to put this off to the side because I don't need it. So what I could do is I could roll this with my rolling pin. I could roll it with my can. Now, the one thing that you might have happen is this. It might stick to your surface. Just very carefully unroll it. Now, it's pretty, I mean, that didn't get that too dirty, so you could continue to use that. So what we have now is we have a nice flat base. And you really don't want it to be any thicker than your pinky finger, okay? You can have it thinner. Thinner's going to be harder to work with, so you really want to keep it, you know, about a 1/4 inch thick. All right. Then take whatever template you're going to use for your bottom, and you're going to draw around. And I like to just, you know, work smarter, not harder. Try and find, you know, a spot on here that's not so difficult to cut out. I'm going to stay in the middle because this is pretty much the consistency I want right about the middle. So what I did is I used the sponge and I just cut out around the outside. And then I just remove this clay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this in a second to start my candle holder. So this is basically around the thickness that you would want. So this is going to be your base, all right? This is, we're going to be kind of adding to this as we go. And we're going to be doing something called rolling coils. So now I have to kind of teach you how to roll a coil. So I'm just going to set this off to the side for a second. Oh, here, this would have been great to use as a template for this as well. So like cups, tops and bottoms work great. All right, rolling a coil. So the first thing that I would do is I would get kind of a carrot shaped piece of clay. Now I'm in kind of a basement that is a little bit on the dry side. So I have this, you know, cheap squirt bottle, which I got at the dollar store. If you have a squirt bottle, great. If not, you don't, you can always roll this on a wet paper towel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my carrot piece of clay down on top of my desk, or you can do it on top of your, you know, on top of your plastic covered cardboard. And I'm going to start to roll forwards. I'm going to do this on here so you can see how it looks. I'm going to take and I'm going to start kind of spreading my fingers apart. And I'm going to be rolling, pushing down and forwards at the same time. What I want is I want to have a nice uniform coil. So you try and make it the same as it goes all the way down. The other thing that you want to do when you start this off is you want to make sure that your coil can make it all the way around. So you want to roll a uniform coil, and what you're going to do is you're going to place it down onto your project and make sure that it makes it all the way around on your project. Now if it's just a little bit big, which this one is, I'm just going to pinch the end of that. And then I'm going to put this on and I'm going to start smoothing. Now, the best way that I find to do this is just to pick it up and very carefully smooth the outside. And I'm not talking really, you know, nicely done right at this moment, because you just want this to stay on here for a few minutes while you're making this base. The other thing that I would do is I would smooth across the seam. All right, so there is our first coil. It doesn't look that great, it doesn't look that nice, but it's on there. Now, Mr. Masick always talks about, you first make a big coil and then you make a baby coil on the inside. So a baby coil is going to be a very small coil that we're going to use as an insurance policy on the interior of the first coil only. So what you want to do is you're going to roll a thinner coil, and this could even be even thinner if you think you can get it even thinner. Again, I'm rolling, from about here to about here on my fingers. I'm pushing down and forwards. Some people roll on their wrist. I can't seem to do that. I don't know how you do it, but some people can do it that way. So there's many, many different ways you can do this. Once you have a thin coil, and this can get kind of long, I'm going to cut mine off. And I'm going to set this on the interior of the very first coil only. Because this is kind of your insurance policy coil for the bottom. Because sometimes that bottom likes to come apart. So now here's what I have. I have a baby coil on the inside of the outer coil. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and sometimes you can just use a tool. Sometimes you can use your fingernail. If it's super small, sometimes you use the back of a paintbrush. You can use, a popsicle stick if you have that, which is always good. Or you can use your finger. I need to cut my nails. Since we've been gone, I've gotten really long nails, which I normally don't have, because in ceramics it's really bad to have long nails. Sorry, ladies. So what you want to do is you want to kind of give your base this little insurance policy coil. And like I said, sometimes it's just easier. You could use this. You could use you could use an eraser and a pencil. The great thing about clay is you can wash it off pretty much of anything. It doesn't stain or anything like that. So now, as I'm pushing on these coils, I'm going to be kind of bracing the outside. So you didn't really see that too much, but I will show you on the next one that I do. Okay, so now the outside doesn't look that nice. I would come back and smooth this, but I probably wouldn't do it just yet. I'd probably wait a little bit. So this is the next time that I would start to use this. So if you notice, mine is sort of a cone shape with, the top cut off. It's just upside down. So what you want to do is you're going to start to move to the outside in order to get this sort of cone shape to it. If you're going straight up, so if you were just making something that resembled this, you would just put the coil right on top of the one underneath it. If you were going in, so maybe you were doing this version, you were going in, you would have to you'd have to roll your coil to the inside of the one underneath it to get it to go in. The opposite is true if you want it to go out. So this next coil, which I'm going to roll another one, so we'll put my project off to the side. We'll take a little bit more. Okay, get that carrot shape again, and then roll. Make sure that you have a uniform coil. Now you want to stay the same size, so you really want to stay about, the width of your pinky every time. This one, we're going to make sure that we don't put it on the same place as our seam was last time. We want to kind of stagger that seam. And then I am going to do the inside first. You can do the inside or the outside. It just so happens that, yeah, my fingernails are really getting in the way. And notice that I'm bracing the outside. And I'm not pushing really hard. I'm not using all of my strength on this. I'm not getting angry at my project. You know, it didn't do anything to you. Don't do anything to it. So what you want to do is you want to continue to kind of smooth that in.